Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. And in China news, oh man, they are hacking and surveilling everybody, and this is absolutely insane. Thanks to one of their contractors, apparently major contractors, getting hit. Now, I'm taking this from an article by Frank Bajak and Dake Kang in the Associated Press, but just looking through this and doing my own homework on this as well, there are a lot of outlets that are reporting on this, but they had a pretty good write-up, and so I'm going to pick and choose, but this is absolutely nuts because Chinese police are investigating an unauthorized and, for the record, highly unusual online dump of documents from one of their private security contractors that is essentially linked to China's top policing agency and other parts of their government. Now, this is a trove that catalogs apparent hacking activity and tools to spy on both Chinese citizens and foreigners alike. Among the apparent targets of tools provided by this company known as iSoon, ethnicities and dissidents in parts of China have seen significant anti-protests are being very heavily surveilled, such as Hong Kong, or basically where the Uyghurs are in the western part of China. Now, this dump of tons of documents late last week and subsequent investigations were confirmed by two employees of iSoon. They're also known as Anzhong in Mandarin, and they have ties to the Ministry of Public Security. That's essentially the surveillance and enforcement arm of the Chinese government. Basically, the Great Wall of China, the Great Firewall of China, that's what we're talking about. Now, this dump, which analysts have considered highly significant, even if it does not reveal any especially novel or potent tools, includes hundreds of pages of contracts, marketing presentations, product manuals, as well as client and employee lists. Now, they reveal in detail methods used by Chinese authorities, essentially that they were using to surveil dissidents overseas, hack other nations, and promote pro-Beijing narratives across social media. The documents show apparently iSoon hacking of networks across Central and Southeast Asia, as well as Hong Kong, Taiwan, and essentially others. Now, the hacking tools were used by Chinese state agents to unmask users of social media platforms outside of China, such as X, formerly known as Twitter, and break into email and hide basically the online activity of overseas agents as well. Also described in these documents are devices that are disguised as power strips and batteries that can be used to compromise Wi-Fi networks. That's a very classic trick that we see quite a bit, where you can integrate things like cellular modems into mice, or basically wireless pineapples or hacking devices into a power strip that just looks like a power strip and will feed power, for the record. And so that's obviously a huge thing. Now, the source of this leak is not known at this moment, but organizations targeted by iSoon, according to this leaked material, include governments, telecommunication firms abroad, and online gambling companies, interestingly enough, within China. So until the 190 megabyte leak, iSoon's website included a page basically listing clients topped by the Ministry of Public Security, and including 11 provincial level security bureaus and some 40 municipal public security departments as well, meaning they were all over China, essentially hacking and surveilling whatever the Chinese government wanted, not to mention abroad. Another page available until early this past Tuesday advertised Advanced Persistent Threat Attack and Defense Capabilities. This is also known as APT. That's what we call it in the industry. If you are basically an attacking group and you've broken into a government, a company, whatever, and you've maintained persistence, you're usually classified as an APT. Now, the company's website was fully offline later on Tuesday, and an iSoon representative refused an interview request by the AP and said that the company would issue an official statement in the future, but did not specify when. On top of this, there's actually more, because iSoon's tools appear to be used by Chinese police to curb dissent on overseas social media and flood them with pro-Beijing content. So you want to talk about disinformation campaigns online? This is literally the company that's doing it for the Chinese government. Authorities can surveil Chinese social media platforms directly and order them to take down anti-government posts. But interestingly enough, and we're going to get to this in a bit here, they also lack that ability on overseas sites like Facebook or X, where millions of Chinese users go to in order to evade state surveillance and censorship. But we're going to talk about X, aka Twitter, in a little bit here, because it's actually not that secure. Who knew? Now, one leaked draft contract shows iSoon was marketing quote-unquote anti-terror technical support to Xinjiang police to track the region's native Uyghurs in Central and Southeast Asia, claiming that it had access to hacked airline, cellular, and government data from countries like Mongolia, Malaysia, Afghanistan, and Thailand. In other words, they were breaking into essentially basically infrastructure providers across these different countries so that they could essentially surveil on behalf of the Chinese state. Now, it's unclear for the record whether that contract was signed, but given essentially what's going on, this is literally what they're doing. And they're listing these agencies that would need that work as their clients. Now, a spreadsheet was also found with a list of data repositories collected from victims and counted 14 governments as targets, including India, Indonesia, and Nigeria, not to mention the ones that I've mentioned before. The documents indicate that iSoon mostly basically supported the Ministry of Public Security, meaning while they had other clients, they were very much in bed essentially as a cutout for the Chinese government. Now, targeting of Taiwan's health ministry to determine its COVID-19 caseload happened with them early in 2021. Documents also show that iSoon charged $55,000 to the Chinese government to hack Vietnam's economy ministry as well. So Vietnam, technically an ally, another communist state, and they're breaking into them too. Now, there were, for the record, a few chat records that referred to NATO, but meaning the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, that is obviously outside of that. That's Europe, United States, Canada, etc., etc. But there was no indication of a successful hack of any NATO country, at least on the initial review that the AP did. Now, that doesn't mean that state-backed Chinese hackers are not trying to hack into the U.S. or its allies, though. We know that's already happening. We've literally have had congressional testimony from Christopher Wray on that. You know, CISA's identified that. So on top of it, cybersecurity firm ESET said that basically they had linked iSoon to a Chinese state hacking group who calls itself Fishmonger and they were actively tracking it. And they wrote about that a few years ago after the group hacked Hong Kong universities during student protests. So basically, since 2022, they've seen Fishmonger target governments, NGOs, think tanks across Asia, Europe, Central America, and the United States as well. So iSoon apparently is behind the Fishmonger state-sponsored hacking group as well. It also appears that iSoon may have found a way to hack accounts on Twitter, aka X, even if they have two-factor authentication, as well as another for analyzing email inboxes, meaning they're able to get into your email and look at it. So that's obviously a huge issue, and X may be using antiquated multi-factor authentication systems that basically allow for things like the scraping of tokens or something along those lines. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm reviewing this myself as well. Now, Western governments, including the United States, have, as you know, taken steps to block Chinese state surveillance and harassment of government critics overseas in recent years. We're not using things like Huawei infrastructure for 5G specifically for these reasons. If we can turn a power strip into a wireless hacking device and it looks like an innocuous power strip you'd have in your home or office, that's a problem. And so this is the tip of the iceberg, but what essentially we have here is a good insight into essentially the going-ons of the Chinese government, where they are openly, well, not openly, but they are hiring contractors to break into essentially the world. You know, and they accuse everybody else of, stop trying to hack Chinese infrastructure. Well, yeah, look at the mirror, dude. Like this is a huge, huge problem. And we're going to continue to see these issues because it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody here. The Chinese government is hacking and trying to surveil everybody. I mean, look at what they're doing inside their own country, not to mention other adversarial states as well. But to get a good inside look into just how prolific, just how aggressive, and just how profound it is to see around the world is shocking. It really is, even though we know it's happening. And so that is your news of the day. It is absolutely crazy. I'm probably going to be doing a future deep dive on this as I continue to compile and gather notes. But you want to talk about hacking, disinformation, and surveillance, look no further than the Chinese government. And now we have the documents to prove it. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well, where apparently the Chinese government will just hack in and watch what we're doing. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please, just please, attempt to stay private, especially from them. Take care.